Among attorneys who deal with federal employment and fairness issues, our next guest might be unique. She was a longtime member of the Merit System Protection Board, director of the Office of Congressional Workplace Rights, and a member of the Federal Labor Relations Authority. Before all of that, she was general counsel to 2 large federal labor unions. For a look at how things stand, Federal News Network's Tom Temin caught up with Susan Tsui Grundmann.
Well, let's start with something kind of current, and that was back in March. There were executive orders coming from the White House excluding certain agencies from coverage that the agency would normally impinge on. What's that all about?
Right, Tom, I'm glad you brought that up. I am not the official voice of the FLRA, but what I can tell you what we've done, which is in response to the executive orders of March 27th regarding those exclusions of certain bargaining units for national security reasons, we have issued show cause orders to the parties in cases where the executive order could have a potential impact. Now, those responses are coming in now, with most of the folks requesting extensions of time or stays while the lawsuits run their course in court. So we'll see how that plays out.
In the meantime, the FLRA has to take care of labor management, union management disputes in the federal government. And the prior administration, was in favor of federal unions. The Trump administration was not the first time around and is not this time around. What's the case activity look like? I mean, how does the whole operation seem?
Well, the executive orders are going to have an impact on our case processing. How much, we'll have to see. I mean, as I said, we're looking at those responses from unions and from agencies to any pending cases, and then we'll be reviewing all of that.
All right. And I want to back up because we're talking to you not just as a member of the FLRA, but also you were formerly on the Merit Systems Protection Board, I believe both as a member and also as the director there, the kind of the person running the agency. And then the Office of Congressional Workplace Rights. You popped up there for a few years and when Congress did some reform of that, and you were a labor attorney for a long time before all of that. So you have seen a lot in terms of organizational relationships to the government and individuals' relations to the government. How do you summarize your learnings?
Well, learnings overall, that this kind of work is not only meaningful, but it is important. And that federal employees, by and large, are hardworking, patient servants of the American people. And that these people serve not for a paycheck, but because they are passionate about the agency's mission, whether that be protecting whistleblowers, healthcare, securing the nation's borders, and that while perspectives of federal employment may change, the people are basically good, Tom. My work, as you say, has focused on federal employment law, which can be litigious and highly emotional. But what I've seen is where there are strong foundational relationships within the workforce that can help transcend conflict. And with these strong foundational relationships, there's room for resolution. Where there's room for resolution, the agencies, the parties can return to the mission and purpose of their agency rather than focusing on diverting time and resources towards litigation. And this has been a unifying theme. You've heard me say this before, particularly with my current agency. Relationships are central because these are the same people that you will be dealing with tomorrow and thereafter, whether your dispute resolves, which is why we are called the Federal Labor Relations Authority.
And what are your thoughts? I mean, you're a labor-oriented attorney because MSPB members and FLRA members come from both parties, and usually they're dealing with fairly nonpartisan issues and have not been openly partisan in these forums. But you come from the Democratic side, and I have never found you to be overly partisan in the years we've been talking. Do unions, what's their proper role in operation of government? Because it wasn't always a universal given that they should be in government.
That's a great question. First of all, I'm very proud of my union roots. And yet for almost a decade cumulatively, I've been the head of an agency with a union of its own. So back in my union days, I suspected it was always easier to be in management. I was told back then it was management's role to give and the union's role to receive. So as a union attorney, in order to receive, I felt like I had to fight uphill all the way. Now, though, with hindsight, I can say that it always looks easier from the other side. Both sides have challenges. For management, it's almost always about resources, time, people, money. There's never enough to go around. And good agency reps know the benefits come from having one unified, legally binding voice, a voice that represents the needs and the demands of the many. And that voice carries the interests of those closest to the ground, the boots on the ground. Smart managers will look towards those who actually do the work, in addition to those who get the work done through others. Now, on the other side, for the unions, it's all about those voices, synthesizing those voices into one coherent message and then articulating its proposals in a way that meets management's initiatives. Unions are far more effective and convincing when they can demonstrate that its proposals maintain, or better yet, advance an agency mission or goal. So successful unions think not only in terms of the needs of their employees, but how management can satisfy those needs without circumventing the mission.
So you feel they have a good role then, to summarize?
They have a seat at the table. They should always have a seat at the table.
We're speaking with Susan Tsui Grundmann. She's a member of the Federal Labor Relations Authority and a longtime practitioner in federal employee and federal union management matters. What is the fundamental challenge federal employees have right now? I mean, Russ Vought of the Office of Management and Budget said he wants to beset and kind of torment, I don't think that's the exact word he used, the federal workforce. And executive orders have called them bloated and corrupt and so on. What's the essential challenge now?
The challenge is either finding a new job or learning to live with uncertainty. There are VSIPs out there, voluntary separation and incentive payments. So whether that is a possibility, an option open for an employee, is retirement an option? And if retirement is not an option, will a reduction in force or RIF follow? And even if one survives that RIF, what will your job look like with fewer folks doing presumptively the same work or the same mission in the future? And built into this uncertainty is this ever-changing landscape. Because, Tom, there's so much litigation out there on all sides, on the executive orders, presidential actions, on guidance coming from the various agencies like OPM. And certainty is not coming tomorrow. And it's hard to grasp this fact, but we are living in defying and defining moments, living one day at a time. You can't live in the past. You can't be anxious about the future because no amount of worrying will change the future. You can't control your own actions. And that's little solace, but it's what we have today.
And you had your own bout of litigation, I think probably for the first time on your own behalf. And what's it like? It never looked like fun. I've stayed out of litigation so far in my life. Hope I always do. But it never looks like much fun.
Well, Tom, just as a journalist yourself, no journalist wants to be the story. So no attorney ever wants to be the client. And what an adventure, which I can say was not entirely unexpected. What I can say is I know that this case is not about me personally. It's about our enabling statute and what, if anything, it means. But the experience has given me that wonderful perspective we just talked about, living in the moment. I don't know what's ahead of me. I don't know if I'm going to be here tomorrow, but I am savoring every day, every opportunity that I'm allowed to come back to work and be with the people and the issues that have been so central to my life. And also to understand that cases like mine and the other cases out there should not be viewed as an attempt to break one's spirit, nor should they be somehow seen to validate any criticism on employees or our contribution to the federal government, let alone our measure or worth as human beings.
The Republic will survive.
I promise you.
Well, it's been great having you on. When I was running the Federal Drive, now Terry Gerton is our host, but I enjoyed having you all those years.
Well, and this is a good place for me to say, what a privilege and an honor it has been to be part of your journey. So, Tom, congratulations on a job well done, and here's to your next chapter.
Attorney Susan Tsui Grundmann is a member of the Federal Labor Relations Authority. We'll post this interview at federalnewsnetwork.com/Federal Drive. Hear the Federal Drive on demand. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.